Hey everyone, it's Fliva. You may have heard this multiple times before, people saying that video games, particularly FPS shooting games, can lead to violent actions and killings. And so, you'll mainly hear this from older people like adults, this concern. It's a concern that I thought I'd address today. And a few points that I have are that video games are tied to killings. Now, this is actually a true point. I won't argue with anyone on this. Sometimes video games are tied to killing. I believe there was a case, I'll put the picture up on screen, of the Protect kid who shot his mom and dad over a Halo game. And I think this is an extreme case, but the reason I think he did this is because the kid was, well, for one, you have to read the full story, right? The kid has just like broken his back and can barely move, right? So he's tied down at home, so that'll obviously make him a little more antsy, a little more anxious, a little more upsetting, in certain aspects. And so, he starts playing video games and he plays Halo, and his parents will not let him get Halo 3, and so he takes his dad's gun and shoots both of them. Now, he killed his mother and his father does survive, but the reason I think this happens is for a few things. For one, I think he was incredibly obsessive. Incredibly obsessive people, they get hooked and they'll play and play and play. Now, I don't think it's something of that if you just play violent video games, it make you a violent person. I don't think that's true. I think that mentally, people just can't handle it sometimes. People that can't get a grip on reality are not someone you want playing violent games. If you look at most of the cases involving video game killings, it's of younger kids whose, maybe their brains are not fully developed yet, and they just can't handle it. What I believe is sometimes mostly kids have trouble like disconnecting reality from gaming, and so they'll just kind of mishmash the two. And in a lot of games, you'll notice that if you kill an enemy, they'll come back. Maybe not the same enemy, but the enemy will return sometime over and over again, and you'll have to just kill the rest of them. Now, I think this can lead to consequences, like consequenceless actions. Like if you were to shoot your friend, right, in a game, right, then they'll respawn and come back and you fight them again. Now, if you shot your friend in real life, they don't do that, and that's where I think reality kind of gets mixed, right? There's not this barrier, and I think that it really comes down to the parents. Like, I heard some guy say, people aren't allowed, or kids aren't allowed to buy drugs, they're not allowed to buy alcohol. Why should they be allowed to buy violent video games? And it's just kind of funny to me, because it really comes down to the parents. And in this case, it's interesting because he takes his father's gun. The parents do actually take the game away, but it was already too late to really do anything. He was so drawn in and obsessed, like he wasn't sleeping or eating or really doing anything else. And I'm not sure how school was like happening, but apparently he was just gaming all the time. And so, in his state of mind, he can't move around. He's frustrated all the time, so he plays this video game. It's pretty fun, he's having a good time, and then, they take it away. Now, this is kind of, I guess, he gets to the point where he's thinking, this is really all I have, and so you don't really want your child to be there. So I just say, if there are any parents watching, monitor your kids, make sure that they're, aren't retarded and have a grip on reality, because normal people don't play Call of Duty and then go shoot up their school. It's just not normal. Like, people do that when they've just lost their minds. Now, psychologically, I think video games are pretty tough on people, particularly people of a weak mind. Now, that's not saying that my brain is superior. I'm a huge head gamer, but like anyone with a mind like below average or something is just like off in their mind, I think that can really affect you. And so I think it's best to the parents know the kid. Right, you have to know your kid if you want them playing these games, and it's really important to make sure you know who and what you're raising, because you could be raising a killer. But I don't think video games themselves are inherently the problem. I think that parents need to be watching out for their children, because this kid, they just let him play all the time, like obsessively, with no stop. And then when they took the games away, he got angry, like very, very angry, like physically aggressive. Now, those are some signs, right, that you probably should it's like, I guess it's like to compare it lightly, it's like cocaine or something like that, something addicting. Maybe not to the extent of cocaine, but for some people it is. They just get so hooked that to take it away, they just have withdrawals and just lose their mind. So if your kid's playing a lot of, violent Fortnite video games, then, there's no need to just say, oh my gosh, you shot a line of code, I'm taking the game away. You just have to make sure that your kid knows, what's reality, just make sure. I'm not sure who your kid is, dude. Maybe you don't even have kids. Maybe you're a kid, dude. Just don't lose your touch on reality. Just remember, it's just lines of code. Honestly, at the end of the day, it's reality has consequences and games do not. I guess that's how you'd say it. But video games and continuously linking video games to reality can have consequences. Like, you don't want it to get to the point where there's nothing else but gaming, right? Especially if it's a very violent game. Now, certain games that, involve shooting are not violent, I guess you could say. They're shooter games, yes. But I think video games in general are kind of on trial here. They've just been demonized by so many people for being this, video games cause shootings and killings, and that's like a very small. Like, if you take Overwatch's population, right? Overwatch has, 30-40 million players? How many of those do you think are school shooters and are killers, dude? I've never heard of any case from an Overwatch killing. Now, I've heard of Call of Duty killings and Halo killings, but stuff like that, like, out of 30 million people, if you assume none of them kill because of Overwatch, that's a pretty big margin. Like, I don't really think we should be demonizing games here. If we're gonna demonize someone, let's demonize the child. It's not, it's not the weed's fault that it gets smoked, right? It's not the cocaine's fault. Yeah, it's not great. It's not a great substance, but you have a choice to do it or not to. I think that's what we all need to remember, boys. Anyway, this video has gone on for too long. I'm not going to make it to the 10-minute mark. So I hope you guys have a good one. I've been Flava, and I'll see you all in the next one.